Hey, this is Levi from Hammer Fab. We're here with John's 58 Plymouth. A lot of people know this car as Kustom, but this one's called Diabolocal 58. This 58 Plymouth is sitting on a Art Morrison chassis with air ride all the way around. It's got AccuAir, but they didn't sit that low originally. So John wanted us to make it look as low as possible. So what we did was, on the lower valance, we cut the sheet metal and added 2 inches to the middle of it, and that puts it, when it's all the way aired out, that puts it exactly a ½ inch off the ground. A couple years ago, first thing he did was bring us these front fenders. Actually brought us 4 really bad fenders, and we turned it into 2 really good fenders. So they had to be sectioned and cut and spliced together in order to make 2 good fenders. But he brought the car back a little while later, and we did some inner fenders. He wanted something kind of stock looking, or something that could have looked stock, and so we did some steel inner fenders. We updated the hood hinges to Ring Brothers billet hood hinges, and we made a custom adapter pad that mounts to the stock Plymouth hood without modifying the hood. And then while we're on the hood, we did a under hood brace. These hoods are real flimsy originally, and so in conjunction with the billet hinges, this sheet metal brace adds some strength and style to the underside of the hood, and we utilized the stock holes here, and then we added these 2 holes here, and then all the holes in the back are stock locations. Obviously 58 Plymouth didn't come with billet hood hinges, and I don't think anybody makes any for this car, so we looked around and they don't. So what we did was we looked at some that might work, and so these here are Ring Brothers billet hood hinges. These are from a 56 Chevy, and we adapted them to fit the 58 Plymouth firewall. But also, that was the easy part. The hard part was adapting it to the stock 58 Plymouth hood. So what we did there was, we didn't change the geometry of the hinge, we just changed this adapter pad here. We designed this in SolidWorks and then 3D printed it and made it so that it bolts to the stock hood. And right now there's no gas struts on here. That's why we have a prop rod holding the hood up, because the plastic will not support the weight of the hood, but it does allow us to function the hood. So in the end, these will be machined out of billet aluminum, and then we'll be able to put the gas struts on there and it'll hold up the hood without a prop rod. Another thing we did under the engine bay here was the front core support cover. Got things fitting a little better up in the front. Made a nice little stamped looking detail around the water fill neck. These ribs are all stamped using a Pullmax machine, and we gave a little detail around the water neck here. Then we did a faux fan shroud. It's got 2 dual electric fans, but that fan shroud with the stamping on it kind of makes it look more old school. And we made these front panels here also. They're just kind of a cosmetic panel that help pretty up the front of that core support. Originally they were pretty ugly. Over here we've got new headlight bezels that we made from scratch here at Hammer Fab. John had some original ones, and for what they were in pretty decent shape, but they weren't as nice as what he wanted on this car, so they kept cracking during the chrome process. So what we did was just made some new ones out of thicker metal and dialed them in and made them fit the hood trim and stuff better. Okay, now underneath here we got the EVOD cut wheels. Now these are billet wheels that have the built-in white wall in the wheel. So what that allows you to do is achieve the look of an old school wheel while still having a modern tire that performs really well. And so we helped him design the wheels, mainly doing the measuring and stuff like that, but they're basically look like a stock 58 Plymouth hubcap. So what you can't tell is that there's a seam right here, and this outer dish pops off of there so that you can get to the lug nuts and the valve stem on the back side. And then underneath, if you guys could see all that, there's a lot of work on the inner splash pans to keep it looking factory. There's a hidden air box under there with a K&N air filter. And actually the coil packs are also mounted right behind the tire. on the back side of the inner fender, and they have a cover that goes over them to keep all the road grime off. So they may not look like it right there, kind of look like an old grandma tire, but those are actually 345 20-inch tires. So you know, it's a standard low profile tire, Michelin's, but this is actually part of the rim. This is billet aluminum that's painted to look like a white wall tire, and so really it makes the tire look that big to give it more of a classic look and help fit the overall theme of the car, which is what we're going for. But the rest of it is CNC machined. So EVOD machined these wheels, and they did a great job. And this round part here is actually the hubcap. It's a billet aluminum hubcap that is held on with set screws so that it can never come off. And then the pockets are painted black down in there for a little bit of contrast to give it that look just like an original 58 Plymouth wheel. You know, don't be fooled if you see this thing going down the road. It's got that sleeper look, but this is actually a 12-inch wide tire. Then we come around to the back, and a while back John shipped us the deck lid. We didn't have the car, just the deck lid, and it had some rot down low. So what we did was took the inner structure out of the inside of the car and then made a new panel right about in here from there down, and then planished that out, metal finished it so you couldn't even tell it was welded on. And then once that was done, we reinstalled the inner structure and TIG welded it back in place. I was a little unsure that it was going to fit when he got it, but he said it fit perfect, so worked out real good. And then another little thing we did here was a little license plate pocket. So it's kind of a blend between being Frenched in but also being sticking out a little bit. These little ribs just give a little style. Didn't want to go too crazy on it because John wanted to keep as much of the original appearance as possible. Another little detail we did here was this Hemi has dual spark plug wires coming out of each cylinder, and so we wanted some kind of little detail where these wires could just jump from the motor right to the fender so you don't even see the coil packs. But actually the coil packs are mounted on the back side of this inner fender between the tire and the inner fender. And now this little bezel right here is a part that we designed here at Hammer Fab. This is going to end up getting CNC machined, but right now this is a 3D printed model or mock-up part that we can use in real time to actually see how this is going to work. So the wires pass through there, and then the other end will have to get crimped on the back side and then ran to the coil packs. And there'll be one here, and two on the other side. So this front core support area has a lot of details added and incorporated and made better that nobody will ever see. One of the first things is just the core support in general was really ugly. It had a lot of holes and bumps and stuff on it. So we tightened all the stuff up the way the condenser fits to the radiator and the spacing of everything so that it works and cools right. If you notice right down in here, there's a little bit of a dimple or a ditch in the top of the radiator. So that was done deliberately so that this hose can tuck right down in there, and that little groove in the top of the radiator gives the hose a place to live until it comes over to the overflow canister that's mounted underneath here. Another thing we did was mount the power steering reservoir underneath this side. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult to get to, but it's out of sight and you know, looks nice and clean that way. We also did the little added detail around the edge here, kind of gives it a stamped look instead of just slapping some panels on there. And then we used our Crater Maker dimple dies on the front and on the back side here.